Hi everyone, it's Kristy at Wellbalance. I'm excited to be with you again today on my mission to help you connect with your people, grow in your self-awareness and your ability to connect with others because you know yourself, and live the fullest life that you can live. So without further ado, today I want to be talking about how do I balance work-life stress? This is a question that I get asked a lot when I'm in workplaces and talking to people and staff about their health and well-being. Well, it's all well and good, Kristy, to say that I should be doing this and I should be doing that, but life's just too busy, there's too much on. So I get that, I live a busy life too, but there are a few strategies that you can implement that will really help you assess and work out where you're at with your work-life balance and what you can do. First point I want to talk about is determining your values. This is something I talk about a lot because our values and who we are is a really integral part to how we live our lives. And if you're living in congruence with your values, you will have a sense of inner peace and well-being. If you're not living in congruence with them, however, you'll be feeling stressed, maybe out of control and overwhelmed. And our values is not something we talk about a lot. I don't find it's something that I talk about a lot, but other people are like, what are you going on about this for, Kristy? But our values are something that we often take for granted. They're things that just are part of us and we don't really think about that. We just go, yeah, well, that's who I am. But it's really important for you to be able to name your values and what they are, and to be intentional and thoughtful about how they're impacting your life. So what are those values that your parents instilled in you when you were growing up? Those principles for life, those ways that your parents said, you know, this is how you should live. We all, no matter how our parents were, they all instilled some sort of values in us. So it's important to be aware of what they are, and whether you're living with them or whether you've deliberately rejected some of those values because you don't agree with them and that's not how you want to live your life, that's absolutely fine, and everyone's different. But being mindful and knowing, okay, what are the values that that my parents instilled in me? What are those that I've taken on because I believe them and I want to instill them in my children, in my life? And what are those values that my parents did instill in me but I don't want to carry on with them? So getting really clear, getting some clarity around what your values are and how you want to live your life. So for me, my values are very much around my family is my priority, my relationship with my husband, and raising my kids to be healthy, functional adults. So that's one of my highest values in life. So I need to, if I'm stressed and struggling to balance my work life, maybe I'm not fully living in accordance with that. I'm spending too much time at the office and neglecting one of those core values in investing in my relationship with my husband and my kids. So you can see how easily, if I'm just on a mindless bandwagon, I'm going to have an inner sense, not an inner sense of well-being because I'm not living in accordance with my values. So spend some time thinking about what is it that's really important to you and that you believe you want to instill and you want your legacy to be, and, you know, have a quick checklist. Are you living in accordance with that? So this is next point. I want you to be intentional. So again, when we're on that bandwagon and life is so busy, I know life is busy, we can get forgetful about being intentional and purposeful in what we want to achieve. So have you really clearly thought about everything that's vying for your attention in your life and what your priorities are? Because definitely your work is going to be vying for a lot of attention in your life. But is that overwhelming some of your other priorities? Like for me, it's being in attendance at kids' sport, sometimes being on the committee for my kids' sport, being involved in my church, serving in my community. There's lots of priorities that I have that are more than work. And I need to think about when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, okay, what is vying for my attention? How many things have I said yes to, which is sometimes my problem, And do I need to reconsider that? Yes, and thinking about saying no next time because there are just too many competing things in my life and I can't do them all well. Doing things well is another one of my values, okay? I take pride in doing things well. So if I've got too many things on my priority list and doing things well is starting to fall off because I just do not have the logistical time and space in my life to do a project well, then I'm going to be feeling stressed because my value of doing things well, I'm not meeting it. So that's where that can tie in too. But think about your priorities. What's vying for your time? Do they fit in with that value structure you have? Is there something that you can drop off the end? Because hey, there's no point being on every committee for every sport your child plays if you don't have time to actually spend quality time with your child on the weekends and instill your values into them and really nurture that relationship and connect with that child. So it's that weighing up, be intentional about it. Establish boundaries. So I know I've fallen into the trap before. I need to establish firm boundaries with my phone. So I get emails on my phone, text messages, Instagram notifications all the time, and my phone and my running my business around that can start to take over my life. So I need to establish firm boundaries, and my husband has encouraged me in this, around spending time with him at night, whether we're on the couch watching tally or whatever activity we're doing to having a coffee together, whatever it may be. If I'm sitting at the table having a coffee with him and I'm on my phone, I'm not really paying attention to him. So we need to establish firm boundaries around when we're going to engage with those work emails, with those work phone calls, with notifications. So I know there are some jobs and some workplaces where you do need to be available more than just the 9 to 5 hours, but can you limit that availability? Can you put boundaries around it? Can you say, well, no, actually, I probably don't, there's no crisis or emergency. I don't need to answer my emails between 5:30 p.m. and 8:30 a.m. the next day. So I can turn my email notifications off. Or I can I've got enough willpower to sit my phone on the bench over there and not look at it. I struggle with that, but if that's what you can do, go for it. Establish some firm and clear boundaries that are going to help you separate your work life from your personal and living that life that you want to live. Establish the boundaries, but you need to stick to them as well. A culture of self-care. So this is another thing that can go out the window when we're on a treadmill like the hamster. Work is a priority. We know we've got this deadline and that deadline. We can start dreaming about it, be stressed about it all times of the day or night. And we stop doing and taking time to do those things that actually are going to care for ourselves, our relationships and our bodies. So a culture of self-care, we need to think about, are we exercising? Are we eating healthily? Are we eating our fruit and veggies? Are we taking time to be able to, cook a meal at night and sit down with our family and eat that meal together? Are we showing our family that this is an important priority? This is a value. I value you, family. I'm going to spend time cooking a meal and sitting down and talking to you all while we eat that meal. Is that something that's important, or is work and a failure to establish those boundaries really overstepping the mark on your values and your priorities and what's really important to you in life? So taking time out, even if it's just half an hour, 3 times a week for exercise, making sure you might have a fruit bowl at work that you and your staff can access a piece of fruit when you need it, thinking about drinking plenty of water, just instilling some of those habits daily or weekly so that you care for yourself and don't forget that if you burn out, you're not going to be able to do any of this. So you really need to take that time and reevaluate and do those things that are caring. Take a breath. Take a breath. This is something that I can forget to do, and even now, you know, rushing through this presentation because I am conscious. Last week I did a video that was around 18 minutes, and I know that you guys are pumped for time and I want to deliver you value, but I need that to be realistic. So if you get an email and 20 minutes, I don't have time for that, Kristy. I'm hoping that this one will be, I'm planning for it to be a little bit shorter. But feel free to give me some feedback. If these videos are too long, it means you're not going to get the value at all. I'd rather shorten them so that you can get a succinct version and you'll actually listen to it. That's why I'm rushing a bit today, just a tip. So take a breath. It's really important, and this is something I've really learned in my life, in my study of mindfulness and being present in the moment and being purposeful. I have a tendency to be busy, yes, and you're running from one thing to the next. Do one activity, jump in the car, race to the next thing. While you're in the car, or while you're on that walk, or while you're transitioning from one activity to the next, again, be intentional, be purposeful, take some breaths, spend some time thinking, okay, what is it that I've just achieved, whether it was a work meeting or any activity that you had to, any project that you had to do. Wrap it up succinctly, think about, okay, this is what I sorted out there, this is what I need to sort out at a later date to follow up on that. And okay, what am I going to do now? Moving on to the next activity. Think about what it is that you want to achieve in that next activity, and go into that next activity, slow down, having taken a deep breath and having thought about what is it that I want to achieve in this activity? What are my intentions? And really go in there, and you can smash it when you've taken that time to invest. It can just be a couple of minutes in that breathing and thinking intentionally about what it is that you want to achieve. So I can't emphasize that point enough. Take a breath, even if it's just a short time, to slow yourself down and be purposeful in all your activities. You'll probably find that you're much more effective when you go into that activity with an intent and purpose, rather than running and screaming in like a mad hatter in a world of chaos from one to the next. Take that couple of minutes to catch a breath, be intentional, and use your time much more effectively. This is my last point. Be congruent and authentic. So this ties through all the other points I was saying. If you are living a congruent life where you really are intentional, you know what your values are, and you're working to instill them in everything that you do in life, your priorities are in line with your values, and you're working and living your everyday habits to be congruent with who you are and what you believe and value, you will have that sense, that inner sense of well-being, because you're living the life that you're choosing to live, rather than being on that hamster wheel and just allowing the momentum of that wheel to take you without you being purposeful or having any control. I could obviously go into a lot of these points in more detail, and a lot of other points to helping you with your self-awareness. And you know, I love looking into deeper reasons why people hold values and what they mean to them. There's so much that I could elaborate here, but I don't want to go on for too long. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, or respond to my email, or give me some feedback in the comments below this page. But until then, we talk. Go out there, connect with your people, grow in your knowledge of yourself, and live your fullest life. Thanks for having me, guys.